薄いのアホ。
プリズムパワーメイクアップカードレディー。
Welcome to Shoujo and Tell, where we discuss shoujo manga and tell who's hot and who's not, talk about themes, and just generally geek out. Today, March 14th, 2020, we'll be shoujo and telling about the series That Wolf Boy Is Mine by Yoko Nagiri. I'm your host, Ashley McDonald, and I'm joined by the letterer of the series, Sarah Lindsley. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, Ashley.
Sarah, who are you? I mean, I kind of gave it away, but you can elaborate.
Yeah, so I'm a freelance letterer for Kodansha Comics and Viz. I've worked on a bunch of series because I've been doing this for a while. I've worked on Waiting for Spring, Love and Focus, LDK, Love Me Not. That just came out recently. It's really, really good. Yeah, I've worked on lots of shoujo. I've also been a software engineer for 3 years, so if you follow me on Twitter, that's why I talk about software so much.
I know. Actually, I really love your Twitter because I also work in tech, but I'm not in a technical role. So I'm like, wow, Sarah does it all.
Yeah.
I do especially love your tweets about what exactly a letterer does, but perhaps you can also elaborate on that a little bit in words.
Yeah, I feel like people don't really understand what lettering is, but think about just your basic comic book. Right, there's the writer who writes the script. There's the artist who draws the art. Now, how do those words get on the page? It's a third person. That's the letterer. That's what we do. So in Western comics, it's a little bit different. They actually get to make their own like bubbles, whereas we just use whatever the artist used in Japan. So there are some differences. We also do the sound effects, but it depends on the publisher because some sound effects you have to completely remove, like with Viz. And then Kodansha, you have to like make it look like the original, but like off to the side.
Oh, very fun.
And I think Yen Press has like, it's the dialogue font, but like off to the side. So there's a lot of differences.
Yeah, definitely the push towards like not removing the sound effects, but just translating them. I was like, I guess that's better because replacing them sounds much harder.
Yeah. I'm actually working on Fushigi Yugi, the like new spin-off Byakko Senki. Yes. I feel so honored to work on it, and like honestly whenever I'm retouching it, I'm like, I'm retouching Yuatase's art.
I mean, yes, that's an appropriate feeling, I think.
Yeah, it's really humbling. I forgot what we were talking about.
Oh, just replacing the sound effects is much harder.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So on Fushigi Yugi Byakko Senki, I have to replace all of the sound effects completely. So that means that I have to take all the Japanese off, and then I put my sound effect on top of it, and then I try to like redraw all the places that just like fill in the gaps.
No. Oh.
So if you ever watch those like YouTube videos where people are restoring art, I watch a lot of them. So you just like Google restoring art videos. You have to like try to patch in these holes, but you don't want to add anything because you want to like maintain the integrity of the art.
Yeah.
But you do want to like make it seem like that hole wasn't there before, which is really fun.
Yeah, this is actually a question that my partner had when I told him about you, and he was like, is it easier in the digital age? Like, do you get stuff with layered files or anything in Photoshop? And I was like, I don't think so. Maybe.
So I've only worked with Kodansha and Viz, so I can only talk about my own experience, and I've heard a lot of different things. But what I get is what the artist actually scanned. So it has the balloons with no text inside, but all of the like asides, so the small text, there's a lot of them in Wolf Boy. All those little asides, those I do have to retouch off. But yeah.
Okay, so yeah, not as easy as it could be, I guess, yet in the digital age.
I think Brandon Bovia talked about this because he just recently did Transformers, which is a really old series. So the files that he got were in a completely different like state than he was used to. So it really depends on the series.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Newer things are easier. Okay, so obviously you heard about Wolf Boy from working on it, I presume.
Yeah.
When you're working on it, is it actually like reading it, or do you go back and then like read it all the way through and then?
Well, I can't read Japanese, so I I will go over the art. I get the Japanese tankobon, so I go over it and that's how I decide like which font I'm going to use, but yeah, I don't really read it until I letter it.
Okay.
Although sometimes I'm like, I have to read ahead on the script. I have to know what happens next.
Yeah,
I can't wait
like,
until I'm
do
done
you read
lettering
it like 5 different times? Because you're like, okay, I looked at it once in Japanese. I put in the letters, then I have to see the final product, so that's 3 times. Like,
Yeah, probably like 5 by the end. By the time I'm done with it, which is why proofreaders are so important. Because by the 5th time, I'm like, I'm not reading for
yeah,
grammar or anything. It's just,
yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Okay, so
Yeah.
you're intimately familiar with what Wolf Boy is about. So, can you explain to listeners who may not have heard it before?
Sure. So the main character's name is Komugi, and she moves to Hokkaido after a traumatic experience with her old classmates. And at her new school, she meets this boy named Yu who can shapeshift into a wolf. Or is he a wolf who can shapeshift into a boy?
It's definitely the latter.
turns- Yeah, he's not the only one. And as Komugi quickly finds out, there's a whole group of boys at her school with the same power. And now she knows their secret.
Yeah, and they're hot, obviously. So everybody
yeah.
wants to be in on their secret too, but you know, they're not prepared for that level of secret. Yeah, so I have only come to know Nogiri very recently because, again, somebody just like randomly gave me Love and Focus and was like, you should read this, it's cute. And I was like, okay, which is Nogiri's other series. And then I was like, it was cute.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yeah, now I want to read That Wolf Boy Is Mine. Because honestly, every time I heard about That Wolf Boy Is Mine, I was like, is that some like raunchy like werewolf story? Like, what's going on? I don't know. But it's not. No, it's not that.
I mean, if you want something like that, I think Kimi wa Pet is more like that. Although there's no like actual magic, but it's like a josei. Yeah, I heard about Wolf Boy, yeah, from working on it. My editor, Haruko Hashimoto, actually, after I'd done Wolf Boy, she was like, do you want to do another Yoko no Giri series? And I was like, heck yeah, I do. So that's how I also worked on Love and Focus.
Yeah, so like, what is your favorite aspect of Wolf Boy and like Nogiri's art in general?
I love the hair. Can I say that?
Yes.
I love the like giant Ghibli hair. Like, how does she get that much volume in her hair? I love the art specifically. I also love the plot line. It's just really fun.
It's really fun, yeah. I think what I'm appreciating is that, like, yeah, you know, I just read all of Basara, which is this big epic
Yeah.
fantasy series, and it's old, and I'm like, all right, you know, this series was great, but, you know, even my partner, when I was reading it and he would, like, look over my shoulder sometimes, he's like, what is happening from panel to panel in Basara? Like, it was so confusing. There's so much going on. There's no connection between anything. And then I'm like, Nogiri is such a good, like, palette cleanser for that. Like, the art is simple, but she's also really, really highly aware of how she, like, places things. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
this is so nice. Like, I'm so here for it.
Yeah. The composition of the panels is so elegant, right? She doesn't add too much background. She doesn't add too little. She does a really good job of balancing, I think, the amount of art that she puts in each panel.
Yeah, like the amount of the minimalism somehow still like leaves such a great impact, and I'm like, oh, that's actually much harder to do than to clutter the pages like in Basara, or my favorite manga is still Maid-sama. So I'm like, that thing is a mess, such a mess. And then I'm like, Nogiri, so good. I do love that she portrays herself as a tomato. Very unique author profile sketches there.
Yeah, I love that. I love seeing how artists draw themselves. That's my favorite part at the end of every manga is seeing the like author auto portrait. What's that word? When you draw yourself? Not autobiography, other one.
Self-portrait.
Self-portrait. There we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love seeing how they draw themselves.
Yeah, so Wolf Boy came before Love and Focus, right? No.
I just know I lettered it before.
Okay. I'm pretty sure the Wolf
think
Boy
it did.
came before Love and Focus. In general,
I think so, yeah.
I do have to say that overall, I thought Love and Focus was like a tighter short series overall.
Right, yeah. I think that's because Wolf Boy was only supposed to be one volume. She mentioned that at the end of volume 4, she was like, I wasn't expecting there to be 4, but I'm happy there were.
Yeah, she's like, so I just made up a bunch of others. This evil bad guy over here. Like, like what? Okay.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's cool to see her progress as a storyteller.
Yeah, that's why I was like, well, it makes sense if Wolf Boy was the first one and Love and Focus is the second one. She's like, all right, I understand now how to plot a short series in a tighter time frame, but land all the things still. I mean, I still think there were too many, like maybe like one too many characters in Love and Focus too. Like in Wolf Boy, yeah, I was definitely like, all right, why are there 4 of them? I don't need 4 people who can turn in 5 if we include the teacher. And I was like, I don't need Aoshi. Like he can leave, or Senri really, but at least he got a cool side story.
Yeah, that was really cute.
Yeah, so overall, I just think it's a very cute series. And you compared it. I don't want to go too far into like spoilers, but it's gotten comparisons to Fruits Basket. If Fruits Basket was not, 23 volumes long.
Right, yeah. I feel like it's much more accessible because it's only 4 volumes.
Yeah, but it's like, oh, I see all the comparisons, right? But they just don't land as well in like the condensed time frame. I'm like, all right, I don't know. This took a heel turn somewhere around here. Like, that's cool. But yeah, overall, it was very cute. I think it has like a modern shoujo sensibility where it's like, all those older shoujo tropes that we grew up on, let's just tear them down, which we'll get more into, but like it's just like forget those are nonsense. So I definitely recommend people read it if they're looking for like a short cute series to read. And it is published digitally and physically from Kodansha Comics. I know everybody gets mad all the time about like the digital only or digital first releases. Calm down, everybody. You can get it physically.
I got opinions on that too, but they're probably a little different.
They're probably a little different.
That's a separate podcast.
It's true. It is like you could just have a whole podcast about digital, like common fights on the internet among manga collectors and people who read manga. Which, like, I'm like, no, I don't want this. But in general, it is good to, support your favorite creators and the work that localizers have to do for it. So,
yeah, we do a lot of really hard work. I guess I should probably mention that the translator Alethea and Athena Nibley, they did an amazing job on this, and so did my editor Haruko Hashimoto, and so did the logo designer Phil Balsman.
yeah.
It's kind of like a dream team of shoujo manga.
Dream team of shoujo manga. Oh,
Yeah.
man. That's nice. Yeah. Okay. I mean, to defer into the debate a little more, I just get annoyed when people are like, why would I pay almost the same amount of money for a digital release as a physical release? And I'm like, well, the same amount of work went into it. It's just like the printing and the shipping don't cost as much as the labor that people had to do to translate it and letter it and all these other things. So I'm like, it's the same, somebody had to draw it. Like most of the work is in that.
I had like a whole Twitter rant on how like localized manga is worth more to you as somebody who can't read Japanese. And that's that's added value that localizers put. Like that's what you're partially paying for. And yeah.
Yeah. No, that's definitely like a valid opinion. I'm like, it's not like people just think things on the internet aren't physical, so they must not be worth anything. And I'm like, that's not true. That's not how it works. The money is in the labor, please. But anyway, that is a separate podcast. So now we will move on to more, we're going to spoil all the things about That Wolf Boy Is Mine. So if you haven't read That Wolf Boy Is Mine, please pause and go read it. It will take you like probably max 2 hours to read. It's not very long. And again, we just said there's like 5 words on a page and like lots of spreads. So, you get through it pretty fast. And I highly recommend you do. But for everybody else who has already read That Wolf Boy Is Mine, we're going to spoil all the things. Yeah, so again, the most common feedback I got on Instagram in particular, a couple people commented being like, I love it, but it just wasn't long enough. And I'm like, yep.
Or maybe it was just long enough.
Yeah, you don't know what kind of crazy madness it could have spun into if there were 6 volumes. Their teacher boy could have been like, I'm just a crazy psychopath. Like, it would have gone into like really
there's
dark.
a little bit of that at the end.
I mean, yeah, I was like, what are you about, dude? But then it tried to pull it back. It was like, he was like, I just looked through, like, I take, screen captures of certain things. So then to remind myself before I do a podcast, I like flip through the screenshots I've taken of the manga. And the one was of him like erasing Kamugi's memory the second time or whatever. And he was just there and he looked so tortured. He's like, why are you doing this? And then the teacher guy is just like, because it's what I decided to do. And I was like, what? And then they tried to make him a sympathetic character. And then I was like, no.
Yeah, maybe we need a separate series about the trauma that he's causing on these poor boys.
I mean, truly, he is probably the most fascinating character that you learn the least about in this manga. They're like, he's 200 years old. He clearly has an agenda. He like works for the government, which, always shady. And so I'm just like, no, what is this guy about?
In Senri's spinoff, he's like, I'll turn you into a human if you give me your life. Like, what is this, The Little Mermaid?
What's going on? And then he's like, oh no, I didn't mean like literally I'd kill you. Like that's, I'm not crazy. Come on. What? Yeah. No, Senri only gets to be like not a disposable character because of his cute side story.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Basically, I was left with a lot of like mechanical questions from all of this, though. I was like, all right, so like you is half of a wolf and half a human. I'm like, is this some wolf children situation? Like, was the dad, is he really, how can he be half is basically, I'm like, the dad also had to be a wolf that could shift into a human, right? So,
yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute, this math doesn't add up.
Also, like, where did the dad go? I just realized I don't know what happened. Oh, maybe I just don't remember. Maybe that was in the manga.
I think the dad died.
Okay.
And then the mom just didn't know how to, but then, yeah, like he died.
And she was like gonna die too.
Yeah, and it turns out she was sick, but she also just like, was like, how do I help this poor child who can't stop transforming randomly because he doesn't know how to control his powers?
Hello, random stranger in the woods
Hello.
who definitely
Yeah,
knows how to take care of children.
I hear that you've taken another boy's life, another cat. You've taken a stray cat and made him a boy and then said, I'll take your life. That sounds safe. Can you take that, my wolf life too? What? I have so many questions. Yeah, and then when Senri, okay, so the Yu situation, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I'm pretty sure he has to be more like a quarter wolf or something, like the only way this makes sense. I don't want to think about the bestiality otherwise, like. And then with Senri, I'm like, okay, so he was just a cat before. Blatantly just a cat. And then teacher turns him into a human who can transform into a cat. And I'm like, how did he learn how to speak Japanese? And like, how does
Magic.
he know?
The
No.
Magic Mountain taught him Japanese.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I always, I wonder what I sound like right now. My cat is trying to sleep on his cat tree, and I'm like, don't I annoy him? I'm just talking, and I'm like, what does it sound like to him? And it's just probably like noise. Like it doesn't mean anything to him. So I'm like, how is he observing these humans? And it just like goes into his mind. Y'all are learning a lot about what type of reader I am right now. Like, what is this?
Suspension of disbelief.
It's
You
not
have
working.
to believe in the Magic Mountain, the power that it gives these boys,
Yeah.
these animals to turn into hot boys who just want to eat a lot of food.
Yeah.
I like how that was their main motivation for like living through the hell that is high school is I just want to eat junk food and udon.
Yeah. And like, I want to play this PlayStation Vita or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
Fushimi's playing. He's like, the entertainment, the manga, so good. Like,
Obviously, I want to be a human.
yeah.
Video games.
Video games. I trained this fox to bring me this other fox to bring me video games. It's the best. And I'm like, all right, yeah, no, my suspension of disbelief was not here enough for this series, clearly. But I did like, again, if we're comparing it to Fruits Basket, because there is this whole like, humans turn into animals and it's traumatic and it brings discord to them and they don't know which one's which, and it feels more like a curse than a special gift, that they have. And Yu deals with the sense of abandonment from his family the whole time. But I did like, that compared to Fruits Basket, because they're supposed to be animals first, they actually feel like they're animals primarily, even when they're humans.
Yeah. It's also just much more lighthearted. I feel like Fruits Baskets, like it was a curse and the whole family, like they had this like tension the entire series. And Wolf Boy is just much more like lighthearted. Like, yeah, we're animals who turn into humans.
Yeah, you humans, so stupid. But we kind of love you anyway. We definitely love you anyway.
I love that moment where I can't remember who said it, but he said, "Whatever you do, don't fall in love with him." And I was like, mm-hmm.
I know, like, have you never read I'm pretty sure it was Fushimi. It's like, have you never read a story before, Fushimi? What's going on?
This is like Shoujo 101.
And it's like, why don't you tell you not to fall in love with Komugi? How about that one? You know how your boy Yu's the one hitting on her all the time. She's just like, I'm just a person who's here. Why are you sniffing me? What are you doing? You weirdo.
And she immediately tells him how she feels. It's like, yes. I guess that was because there was only supposed to be one volume. She's immediately like, I love you. Wait, did I just say that?
Wait a minute. No, I don't love you, but I do. But I didn't mean to say it out loud. Yeah. Yeah, I actually think Komugi is my favorite thing about this manga. I know it's a series about hot boys who turn into cute animals, but I'm like, no, Komugi is where it's at, man.
Yeah, I think because this manga was published in Aria, which skews a little bit older, I think that's part of the reason why she is so like, she has such a low tolerance for, I guess, some of the shoujo manga tropes. Like, she gets bullied and her response is just like, no.
Yeah. Well, even the reason that she's bullied is like a very standard shoujo manga trope where it's like, oh, the hot boys are here. The hot boys belong to everybody, like the Yuki fan club in Fruits Basket. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
their whole point is that no one girl can, have Yuki. So that's why they hate Toru. But I feel like in Fruits Basket, it kind of tries to like humanize them to a point and like utilizes them a lot more for like gags and developing other characters. Whereas here, Komugi's just like, no, this is stupid.
Like, this isn't boys over flowers. I'm ending this right here.
Yeah. And I like that, part of the reason she gets bullied is not even because she likes the hot guys that everybody is going after, It's just like they sent around a note being like, Akko is for everybody. I love that I remember Akko, but I can't remember the teacher's name. Excellent. Akko, who is not even a character. He's just like a named thing with no face, I'm pretty sure.
So bad with names.
Yeah.
That's what the translator's for. That's what I get. I get the script. The script and it tells me all the names.
Yeah. You're like, I just put it in there. Yeah. So then, yeah, they just sent around a note that's like, oh, Akko's for everybody. And she doesn't care about him at all. She just tears up the note because she's like, no, it's dumb. She's like, let's not spread this.
She gets bullied just for being like, no, this is a mean note.
Yeah. And then they're like, well, now we hate you. And they like, I love that Nogiri, apparently all her stories involve people who lived in Tokyo having a traumatic experience there. So they run away to Hokkaido. Is that like she has to put that in every story now? As soon as she doesn't, I'll be like, this isn't, what are you doing, Nogiri? You can't diverge from this formula.
We were expecting it from you.
Yeah, what are you doing? Because that also happens in Love and Focus. So yeah, so then, she goes to Hokkaido and meets you, and she's like, oh no, the hot dude is dragging me down into this hellhole of nonsense I don't want to be in. But she's also like, but I like him, so fine. No. She still pushes back, being like, what do you mean they're all for everyone? All you do is stare at them from afar. You don't even know them. Yeah, Komugi just very quickly tears down everything. I love her.
Yeah, she's fantastic. And I think that was supposed to be like one of the reasons why Yu falls for her, is that like that strength that she has and her like low tolerance for like mean people. Because whenever they meet when they're kids, right? Mm-hmm. The reason why he felt like he could open up to her was because he was like, oh no, I'm not supposed to tell anybody or like show my ears to anybody. That's what mom said. And Komugi was like, then we won't tell anybody, will we?
We won't tell anybody now, will we? Yeah.
It's just our secret.
Very, very nice. Yeah. I also just like Komugi because I feel like genuinely there's nothing, like aside from, she's like pushes social boundaries a little bit, there's like nothing remarkable about her. Like she actually is just a normal girl who happened to find a wolf boy, right? Like
I think that plays into what I was saying before, because like maybe a slightly older audience for shoujo might have a lower tolerance for these like kind of juvenile tropes that Komugi also has a low tolerance for. So maybe that was like intentional.
Yeah. I also think Komugi like looks, there's something about her that when I visually look at her, like she feels like she should be the mean, like maybe not like the evil character, but kind of like the mean friend or something,
I get it, yeah.
Yeah. Because she has like a snarky, like kind of looking attitude about her. But I'm just like, no, she's just a normal girl who looks like is on the prettier side. And that's it. that's Komugi.
Yeah. It's nice that it's not just another like, I'm like an ugly nerd. Oh, nothing ever remarkable is ever going to happen to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Like she has no angst.
Have we seen that?
Yeah.
Like, no, Komugi's just like a nice girl who doesn't struggle with
like most things,
like herself.
Yeah. Like she's like, okay, I'm trying to stay out of trouble, but because like society is annoying, not because like what I did is wrong. Yeah. And I'm like, yes, Komugi, yes, own it. Own it, girl. I also like that she has the tick where she like when she's uncomfortable, she uses her one arm to like hold her other arm at her side.
I didn't notice that.
It's shown in at least 2 different panels when I was like, they're next to each other in when I was flipping through my screenshots, but they're not contiguous like they're not contiguous pages in the actual manga. So it's when she.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it was when she was in the three-legged race with Fushimi. Like, they're standing at the start line, and she's like, I don't want to be with Fushimi. So she's, like, holding her arm. And then at some point when she, like, walks away from that, like, I think she's wearing the same outfit. So it's, like, in the same scene somewhere. But she walks away from that, and then that's when the girls confront her, being like, you're getting too close to the hot boys. You need to stop. And she's just, like, holding her arm again, being like, stop talking to me.
It's so nice when artists can incorporate personality that way through body language.
Yeah. So I just thought, like, Komugi, I was like, oh, is Komugi so good? In, like, very, very little ways. Komugi is definitely a weird name, right? Am I making that up?
In the translation notes, it says it means wheat.
Right. But I'm just like...
It would be like a joke because... Oh, where was that translation note? It was like because soba is made from wheat or something.
Yeah, because her dad runs the restaurant. So she's like, yeah. Yeah.
Last night, I was watching Beastars, and I heard the word okami, and it was supposed to mean wolf. And I had this moment where I was like, Ogami.
Yeah. He's just named Wolf.
Ogami is wolf.
Yeah. Yeah.
4 years later, I finally get that. 4 years.
It's something that my partner Asher pointed out right away. Like, he started reading it and he's like, his name is just Wolf. He's the wolf and his name is Wolf. I'm like, I didn't say it was subtle. Like, what?
Something else about his name, it's U with the macron over the U in U. And the font that I used was Comic Crazy from Comicraft, but that font at the time didn't have that character. So the way that I had to make it was I had to take a hyphen and like push it up above the U and then push it to the right above the U.
Wow.
Every single time.
No.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah, no. They updated the font and that's no longer an issue, but that's just like one of the things that manga letterers have to take into account whenever we're picking fonts, because if you have to put the hyphen above every O in Ogami and every U in U, it's like, you should probably just pick a different font.
You should just, You're like, luckily the series is only 4 volumes, so it's all right.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine a shonen
Waiting
series.
for Spring. There's also, I think it's the name of the school. It's been a while since I lettered that series, but I think it's the name of the school. There's a macron over an O, and I have to put a hyphen over the O every single time because it's the same font.
Oh
My God.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the name. There's Hojo is definitely one of the small,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would compare, like, if you like Waiting for Spring, you would definitely like Nogiri's work and like vice versa, I think, for sure.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's definitely more like of a world and characters, and it's a more fleshed out story. I mean, it's a lot longer, 13 volumes as compared to Wolf Boy.
Yeah. But like they have similar art styles, I feel, and like overall like cute feels. Yeah.
Same dialogue font too. Hey.
Hey, everything is the same.
Hey, also lettered by me. It's an easy transition.
Yeah. Not the same author though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what else to talk about with Wolf Boy. I mean, okay, we didn't get to the central conflict of like Yu's abandonment and all the hypnosis techniques. I mean, I did like the twist in the end. I was like, why can't they hypnotize her? I'm such a gullible story person, honestly.
Memory loss is one of those tropes that always gets me.
Oh yeah.
Every time when like she gets her memory back, I'm like, oh no, she got her memory back. I'm gonna start crying.
I know. This love is destined. Don't pretend otherwise.
She overcame the magic mountain with her love.
The memory mountain. Yes, exactly. What I didn't like about that second time is that they were like, oh yeah, our teacher erased everybody else's memory too, and then didn't replace their memories. So they're like, oh no, now we live in this world where all of us remember and nobody else does. And I'm like, oh no, that's terrible and confusing. I don't like it. Well,
long as they hide behind a curtain, it's fine.
as long as they hide behind a curtain, it's fine. And then, yeah, that little,
The little bonus,
yeah,
like
the little
2 pages.
yeah. And then all of them being like, they know that we can see them outside, right? And then Fushimi's like, no, don't tell them. Let them have this moment. My partner actually thought I would like Fushimi the most, who is the fox. And I'm like, he's just too obviously a tsundere for me. Like I love Kyo from Fruits Basket, who's obviously like the most tsundere of tsunderes, right? Like, but Fushimi has something about him where he's like, you know, he's unwilling to admit how tsundere. I guess he's just not dere enough when he needs to be. Not enough blushies, you know. I guess we should name who our favorite of the 4 was. So who's your favorite hot boy?
I'm gonna have to go with you. You know, even though your name gave me a lot of problems, I love you. He's really cute.
Yeah. I think I would also have to go with you just because, like, Senri doesn't leave a big impression on me until his side story, but then I'm just like, oh, it was cute and sad. Aoshi is like, why are you here? Get out of here, Tanuki. He did elicit the best Komugi responses. Like, they had that text exchange where he was like, what are you doing this weekend? And she was like, nothing. I'm going to stay inside. Like, it's winter and cold or whatever. I think it was New Year's. Yeah, I guess so. And he's like, wow, that's sad. And then she's just like, what the hell does this raccoon dog want? And I was like, this is the best.
Yeah, he was like comedic relief, which was really cute.
Yeah. Then yeah, I'm like, I wanna like Fushimi, but I don't. So you is the winner. Like cute generic main character boy. I have to say that wolves are larger than that.
Yeah, I was wondering that. Maybe it's like a different species. He said he was the last one, or maybe
Yeah, he did say he was the last like wolf in Japan. So I'm like, are Japanese wolves smaller like everything else in Japan? Comparatively.
I love when Komugi loses her memory and she's just being followed by a wolf, and she's like, okay.
But she's like, it's a dog because he's not like a full-sized wolf. Yeah. She's like, but yeah, after my partner read this, he's like, yeah, it just reminded me of like Terry Pratchett once wrote something. Terry Pratchett, like big fantasy author, wrote in one of his more lighthearted fantasies, being like, yeah, any wolf that is mixed with a human is just a dog. Like, and I was just like, yeah, well, yeah, this manga apparently proves that. She just thinks it's a dog following her when she loses her memory.
That's true, yeah.
And I'm like,
oh, what a cute puppy.
Yeah, I'm like,
Komugi, what's wrong with you?
Komugi. But yeah, I don't know. In general, I'm like, I'm pretty sure the wolf would be bigger just because I did go to the wolf sanctuary that's in New Mexico one time, which like George R.R. Martin used as a reference for making the dire wolves and stuff in Game of Thrones. And yeah, so I got to, pet some wolves. Like I think some of them were part dog, but like they were legit wolves and they were very large. They were not the size of a dog, let me tell you. I was like, definitely this wolf could destroy me. I'm very small.
I've been to one of those too, and it's kind of scary because they do kind of look like dogs, but they're much bigger.
They're just bigger, yeah.
There was like a handler who was telling us about them, and she went in the cage with, I think only one of them was like full wolf, and it started showing like dominant behaviors to her, and it was so scary. Like all of a sudden it turned from like dog-like behavior to like wolf behavior.
Yeah, when I went, it was like we got to pet a lot of different ones, and they all had unique personalities, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, animals are awesome and have like feelings and stuff, like they develop personalities. But one of them, she was like, this one's older, so try to actually kneel down so that the wolf doesn't feel the need to like jump on you, because she gets very excited, even though she has like arthritis and stuff. And I was like, oh boy, all right, like cool.
What a good doggy.
I know, it's a good wild doggy. Oh boy, yeah. I don't know. In general, I feel like this series, could definitely have a spin-off manga about their teacher, and I'd be like, okay. So these are the only two, like Love and Focus and That Wolf Boy Is Mine are the only two Nogiri series
that are out
that are out
in
in
North
English.
America. There's another one in Japan that I really hope that Kodansha Comics please license their new series so that I can letter it. Thank you.
Yes. Is it completed or is it like ongoing?
I think it just completed, so I'm like, please, 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 please.
It's ripe
please
time.
give to me. Give it.
Give to me so I can have the cute feels.
I have to keep my pulse on releases in Japan and the US because whenever there's something I really want to letter and that somebody releases that they announce in the US, I'm like, can I have it, please?
Oh yeah,
Please give to
interesting.
me.
What is the process of?
I just email my editor and I'm like, please give.
Wow, okay, so it's just like a competition to see like who emails me first.
Well, I mean, an editor, part of their job is to pick out translators and letterers that would do a good job on each series. So they might have worked with, like Haruko had worked with me on Wolf Boy. So whenever they got Love and Focus, she was like, oh, well, Sarah did really good on Wolf Boy, so let's see if she's open for Love and Focus. Yeah, so if you just, give your editor an extra nudge, like, hey, I want to work on this, they'll be like,
I'm like,
I'll consider it. Like, that's definitely, I mean, somebody wanting to work on a series is definitely a good reason to put them on it.
Yeah. But I think that's all I had to discuss about Wolf Boy. Is there anything that I missed that you wanted to bring up?
I'm happy I got to revisit this series. It's been 4 years. It was a little bit hard to reread something I lettered 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Ooh. Here's a free pro tip. If you're going to reread something you did 4 years ago, read it like you're reading one of your friends' series. Like, if you see a mistake, it's fine. They were trying their best.
Did you see mistakes and you were like, I could do this better now?
Absolutely, yeah. My retouch on this series was not great, but hey, I am doing real good now.
You're like, and now I don't have to put the silly macron over this manually in this spot.
I learned so many things in Wolf Boy. I learned so many things.
Thanks for listening to Shoujo and Tell. Comments, questions, constructive criticism, concerns. You can gush about why you love Nogiri's work. Email shoujoandtell@gmail.com or leave a comment on shoujoandtell.com/thatwolfboyismine. You gotta say it with like feeling every time.
Like a wolf.
We're at Shoujo and Tell on Twitter. Why did I have Facebook on this one? It's Tumblr and Instagram. I mean, you can look at Facebook if you want, but... Sarah, where can people find you and your work on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at SALINSLEY, and my website is www.sarah.pizza. I have to say the www because people don't believe that pizza is a real TLD, but it is.
Wow,
Just like .com, but it's .pizza.
You're living the life right there, right?
Yeah, I had to scoop that one up.
Yeah. I definitely recommend people follow you for your short little videos about what lettering is like. Since I work at a tech company, but it's also actually like a publishing company too, Hybrid. So I'm like, I always love listening to her, like following people who teach me stuff about niches of publishing that I don't really interact with. Like, that's cool.
Yeah, thanks. It's great to hear that kind of feedback. I mean, that's why I post all this stuff. because people don't really know what lettering is. So I'm like, well, why don't I tell them?
Yeah, I think it's really helpful for anybody because I was always like, I want to work in publishing, and then I didn't know like 95% of what goes into publishing. It's helpful for people to know the different roles that they could go into.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Are you excited every time you see a new episode from us? If so, please consider leaving a rating on Apple Podcasts. This will help the podcast reach more hearts, or at least ears. Thanks again for listening. We'll be back next time for Beastmaster by Kyosuke Motomi, and that will be with Asher. So stay tuned. Until then, bye.